I want you to translate the following text into American English, using everyday language they use. Don't add or remove anything. Just translate it. In the heart of Central Asia, Uzbekistan comes across as a calm, layered place where every old street seems to hold a clue from the past. Walking through its cities, history isn't tucked away in far-off museums. It beats in the blue domes, the squares, and the markets. Hospitality is part of daily life, and a culture deeply tied to Islam shapes rituals, architecture, and ways of living that have outlasted empires, invasions, and political change. Samarkand, the Pearl of the East, and Bukhara, a reference point for religious learning, form an axis that once carried caravans, ideas, and science. In that atmosphere, thinkers like Ibn Sina and al-Khwarizmi left lasting marks. Medicine, math, and astronomy flourished here before echoing around the world. In Timur's time, the city's got a new boost. His rule built madrasas and strengthened regional identity, creating centers of learning that still impress. Before we go on, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way every new episode reaches you at the right time and nothing on this journey slips by. At Samarkand's Registan, recognized by UNESCO, 3 madrasas make up a backdrop that tells of centuries of learning and faith. It's not a postcard set. It's a living space where Islamic tradition stays present in the rhythm of prayers and people's routines. With around 35 million residents, the country regained its sovereignty in 1991 after the Soviet collapse and moved forward preserving its language, memory, and religious ties. Between turquoise domes and sun-baked bricks, Uzbekistan remains a repository of stories, and every detail invites you to take the next step. Uzbekistan's currency is the sum. In practice, $1 is about 11,500 sum. That monetary base goes along with an economy shaped by the countryside. Cotton and wheat mold landscapes and exports. A lot of people leave the country to work and send money back home, an invisible thread that supports family budgets and keeps income flowing. Even with gas, oil, and gold underground, everyday life faces obstacles. After decades in the Soviet orbit, Uzbekistan is still reorganizing institutions, opening markets, and trying to speed up development. By train, in 2 hours, Samarkand links to Bukhara and opens a window onto the Silk Road. In the historic center, the Kalon Minaret, built in 1127, has spanned centuries and survived the Mongol invasion, imposing its presence and silently telling the city's story. Cultural life also pulses on the looms. Uzbek carpets, crafted by women's hands, leave homes and studios for the bazaars, where colors and patterns compete for attention. Handicrafts are affordable, but imported goods hit the wallet. High tariffs make anything from outside more expensive. In Tashkent, that policy shows up on the streets. The fleet is dominated by Chevrolet. To get around import costs, General Motors set up a factory in the country and started producing locally, taking advantage of lower taxes for vehicles assembled there. The result? The brand's cars have multiplied along the avenues. And while engines roar, Uzbekistan's big markets keep drawing crowds, a meeting point where economy, tradition, and conversation cross paths and leave you with the feeling there's a lot more to come. From above, Tashkent's covered market looks like a big shell resting on the city. Inside, there's constant back and forth. Locals come in to stock up. Tourists let themselves be guided by the aromas, and sellers offer little samples before closing the deal. It's the gateway to Uzbekistan's bazaars, where the variety jumps out at you. Piles of sunflower seeds, blocks of Samarkand halva, the sour cheese kurt stacked in compact mounds. In Tashkent and Samarkand, commerce isn't limited to ready-to-eat goods. Uzbek bread is born right there in front of everyone. The baker's moves are choreographed. They stretch the dough, slap the discs onto the walls of clay ovens, and with quick movements watch for the perfect doneness. Anyone watching understands why so many speak proudly of this bread. It's hearty, truly filling, and tradition says it sustained soldiers for up to a month without losing quality. That reputation also holds up thanks to scale. A typical bakery in the country pulls about 8,000 loaves a day from the oven. Before we go on, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way every new episode reaches you at the right time and nothing on this journey slips by. And the bread is just the beginning. In the heart of Central Asia, the Uzbek table gives pride of place to meats. found on the streets on smoky skewers, in slow stews, and in comforting broths. There was a time under Soviet rule when some of these practices were muffled, and with them the local cuisine lost a bit of its shine. Today, walking the market aisles, you can feel that repertoire resurfacing, dish after dish, counter after counter, inviting you to keep going. Early in the morning, when the first stalls roll up their doors, the smell of pilaf takes over Uzbekistan's streets. At 8 a.m., giant cauldrons get to work without a break. Into them goes a simple, generous list: meat, rice, chickpeas, carrots, and sunflower oil in quantities that impress. A single 100-kilo batch can call for up to 40 liters. There's an order to the ritual. The meat goes in first and fries until it loses its redness. Around here, well done is the rule. When it's ready, in go the carrots and chickpeas. Only then comes the rice, the quiet star that completes the composition. The heat is controlled, trays go on top of the cauldron, and the cooking continues slow and patient until everything comes together in balance. When the pilaf is ready, the cooks say a brief prayer and mix the contents carefully, keeping the grain's texture intact. The portions arrive steaming, and the color gives away its identity. It's not white rice. The shade pulled from the carrots gives it a local signature. Talking about the Uzbek table means talking about three pillars: bread that's never missing, mountains of rice, and generous meat. Anyone coming to Central Asia quickly realizes that liking meat helps: beef, lamb, and in some homes, even horse. Some families set aside specific cuts for a special occasion pilaf, reinforcing the bond between the dish and celebration. That fondness comes with costs. Frequent consumption of fattier meats is tied to rising rates of cardiovascular problems, especially among the elderly. Even so, pilaf remains a symbol of hospitality, a communal preparation, a gesture that gathers neighbors and travelers around the same cauldron, where every ingredient tells its part of the story. In Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, heart disease is gaining ground and exposes a daily life where tradition and health walk in tension. In Uzbek villages, the menu runs through the wood-fired oven. Families bake their own bread and make samsa, a shell-shaped pastry filled with chicken or other meats. This way of cooking shapes flavors and the rhythms of home life, keeping alive a culinary repertoire that resists gas and modern appliances. In many homes, closed ovens are still going, spreading heat through the yard and gathering neighbors, a habit that speaks to belonging, but also to food choices that weigh on the heart. When we leave the kitchen and head to the street, the country shows another striking trait. Uzbekistan covers 449,000 square kilometers and has low population density, wide avenues, spaced-out buildings, breathing room between blocks. Tashkent, Central Asia's biggest city, brings together about 3 million people and carries marks of Russian presence in its straight lines and broad axes. In the side neighborhoods, Soviet-era playgrounds still welcome kids, a reminder that the city's history didn't stay in the books. Russian influence is still visible on bilingual signs, especially in the capital, where Russian shares space with Uzbek. And the Uzbek language in turn is close to Turkish, a bridge that links the country to the Turkic world despite the distance. Between the smell of samsa and the concrete landscape, a scene takes shape that draws travelers in and invites observation. How can such deep-rooted traditions live alongside the need for healthier habits? Following that thread helps you understand not just Uzbekistan, but also the challenges facing its neighbors, like Kyrgyzstan, where the same balance between culture and health keeps shifting. On Tashkent's sidewalks, the day starts early. Street vendors set up stands with teas, dried fruits, and small handicrafts. The country, which lived with closed doors for a long time, now shows off storefronts with Western brands next to traditional little shops. That contrast stands out, but another detail interrupts your walk. Kids asking for money at intersections. Many appear and vanish in a moment, guided by adults who control their movements. An unsettling presence that raises questions that rarely find answers. Farther along, another scene catches your eye. Pigeons dyed in bright colors, an improvised attraction for tourists chasing the perfect photo. It's a simple way to guarantee income for their handlers and shows how every corner of the city tries to adapt to the new economy. Underground, the story changes tone. Tashkent's metro, opened in 1977, is still a point of urban pride, stations with designs, panels, and columns that nod to the Soviet legacy. Down there, time feels organized, flows follow an exact rhythm, and the city gets a breather. For longer distances, trains take the lead. Staff move around in crisp uniforms, keeping etiquette that hasn't gone out of style. But the daily math is tight. With a minimum wage around $320 and an average income around $500, many young people decide to head to Europe or the United States. Uzbekistan brings together languages, flavors, and rituals from various origins, a mosaic that enriches its table and memory. Even so, for a big share of the population, economic stability remains a work in progress. And in that tension between tradition, openness, and leaving, life goes on, street after street, station after station. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If this deep dive into Tashkent caught your interest, drop a like and subscribe to catch the next episodes. Turn on the bell so you don't miss when the next video drops. And tell me in the comments, which scene stood out to you the most? The conversation keeps going over there. See you in the next one.